you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast. The hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks, Voss here from the ChrisVossShow.com. How'd that lady get in here? Security. Hey, folks, welcome to the big show. As always, for nearly 20 years, we bring in the Chris Voss Show. We are the oldest podcast in existence that still delivers 1 to 2 new shows daily. You know why? Because we love you guys so much. We sit up at night, laying in bed going, man, I hope those folks are happy. I hope they're educated. I hope they're uplifted. I hope their lives are better from what they hear from all these great authors of minds that come on the show. And then we start drinking. No, we don't. We don't do that anymore. Anyway, guys, be sure to support the show. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss 1, the TikTokity, and all those crazy places on the internet. And maybe if we live long enough, we will be the oldest existing podcast in the world. And there's only a handful of us left. Anyway, we have an amazing young mind on the show and Spirit. We're going to be talking to him about his book on one of my favorite subjects on leadership called A Journey of Insights, Lessons in Leadership and Legacy by James G. Ellis. He's given me permission to call him Jim during the show. So we'll do that and all that darn good stuff. Jim's led a pretty interesting life with all the things that he's taken and done, and we're going to get into it with him and all that good stuff. He has served as the Dean of the Marshall School of Business at the University of SoCal from 2007 to 2019, overseeing the education and well-being of approximately 5,700 undergraduate college students. You can tell I didn't go to college. I can't even pronounce 15. Prior to becoming a dean, he served as USC's vice provost for globalization and held a full-time tenured appointment as professor of marketing. Before entering academia, he built a distinguished career in business. He served as a president and CEO of Porsche's Designs American operations and owned and operated or partnered in multiple companies spanning retail, manufacturing, and distribution. A graduate of Harvard Business School, yay, and the University of New Mexico, he has received numerous honors for teaching, mentorship, and leadership, including USC's Golden Apple Award, the Teaching Has No Boundaries Award, and recognition of USC's most influential professors. He remains active as a consultant, advisor, and board member, continuing to share insights from 5 decades in business and education. Welcome to the show, Jim. How are you, sir?
Thanks, Chris. Great to be here. Appreciate it.
Great to have you there. What a spectacular bio you got there, bud.
That's a lot of years putting it together.
Yeah, 50 years, give or take a decade or two. It's funny to look back on this kind of as we enter midlife, we'll call it, I guess.
Yeah, I wish.
It's kind of funny to look back and you're like, how did I survive all that stuff?
Yeah. And as you rattled those things off right then, I started thinking about that immediately. You started thinking about, how did I get through those speed bumps and potholes of life? Yeah, you're right.
Start pinching yourself. I'm still here. So Jim, give us .com's websites. Where do you want people to get to know you better on the internet?
Internet websites, jamesgellisauthor.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview. What's inside your book, sir?
So I was asked by my kids to write a book about the people I'd met in my life. And I thought that would be just a travel log. And I said, I don't need to take them on a travel log, but what about the people that really taught me a lesson?
Ah.
And so that's what it's about. It's about the people that taught me a lesson that I thought would be worthwhile passing on. And there are some 80 plus people mentioned in the book, as well as things that have happened to me along the way in my career. So it's really, how did I learn from other people and what did I learn from other people?
What a wonderful way to write a book, man. I remember in mine, Beacon's Leadership, there was 2 or 3 moments of stories that I told there that were seminal moments of my lifetime, life-changing moments. And usually they were done by the charity of another human being who said, hey, I can tell you don't have it and you need to get it. And here, I'm going to help you. And I sometimes will be sitting around my life and I just shudder to think if those moments had never happened, what my life would be. I'd probably be in a trailer home with I don't know.
You're right. It might be.
So what a great thing. What are some of your favorite stories out of the book that you maybe want to tease out to people?
I'll tell you one of them that was really great. I was 12 years old. I was running through San Francisco International Airport with my dad to meet a friend of his at the gate. And of course, like any 12-year-old kid, I was running ahead of him. And I whipped around a corner and I ran straight into a guy and knocked him right into the wall.
Oh, wow.
If I was anything more than 120 pounds dripping wet 12-year-old kid, I would have really knocked him on his butt, but I didn't. And he kind of fell into the wall. And I looked back and he was brushing himself off and he was very well dressed in a suit and tie and talking to a couple other guys in a suit and tie. And so I looked at him. He's fine. Okay. I kept going. Mm-hmm. My dad catches up with me and he says, "Do you apologize to that guy?" And I go, "No, I didn't. I'll be right back." I go back and I said, "Excuse me, sir, I don't mean to interrupt your conversation, but I'm the kid that hit you." And I just came back to say, "I'm sorry. I take full responsibility for what I did. It's my fault. I'm sure you're okay." He looks at me, he says, "Son, if you'll take full responsibility for everything you do in life, like you just did, that's good enough for me." He said, "Appreciate the fact you came back to apologize." He said, "And I'm fine, thank you, but take responsibility." And you can't stand around as a 12-year-old kid and shoot the breeze with 40-year-old guys. So I kept going, and my dad catches up with me, and he said, "You know who that guy was?" I said, "Dad, you're the only guy I know that wears a suit." "No, I don't know who the guy is." He says, "He'll be the president of the United States next year."
Whoa!
Says, "That's Senator John Kennedy from Massachusetts."
Wow! Wow!
Knocked him in the wall, and he taught me a lesson I never have forgotten since I was 12 years old.
Did he give you the ah?
No, I kind of recognized it later. I got the ahs later on, but right then I was a little more nervous when I figured out.
Yeah, hit me, kid. There. Now I don't want him mixing John Wayne and John F. Kennedy. We had the governor of Massachusetts on it. I don't think he's governor anymore, but I think it was about 2022 or during COVID. And he'd written an amazing book, and he was the most popular governor in the U.S. And he was bipartisan. And I gave him my Teddy Kennedy impression, and he gave me a pity laugh. So I don't do it much anymore. But at least you weren't on a bridge. So I'll just say that.
Exactly right.
The jokes, folks, they're just jokes.
Let it go to the bridge. Let it go to the bridge.
So you put this book down. Would you call it a memoir then too about your life, or just stories of?
It's how these people jumped in and out of my life. And yeah, I didn't want it to be any kind of an autobiography or anything like that. I think that I just was lucky and have been fortunate to have met and talked with a lot of really, really interesting people, from students to presidents, anything in between. And so I thought, let's put out what they taught me, and let's just see if we can share that with people. And that was the goal, was just to share it.
Now, I don't know if you've probably never seen this guy on TikTok, who he goes to bodybuilder things where the guys are all jacked up on roids and he's really a small, thin guy. And he has this thing where his shoulder hits them as he walks by, excuse me. And then it's a whole bit. And now everybody wants him to do it because it's a thing. So maybe you were onto something early on about how to meet great people and probably won't work after they're president, because the service will have their way with you. And so, yeah, a lot of these stories revolve around leadership and legacy. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think part of what I did in my career was a lot of positions of leadership and learning about how to lead people. And so I thought, from that standpoint, let's put that in perspective. But the bottom line is, it's a lot about finding your North Star, finding the direction you want to go in. It has nothing necessarily to do all with business, as much as it has to do with just how do you listen, learn, and gain wisdom to live a good life.
Yeah. Yeah. And being able to listen, being able to learn is really important. I can't tell you how many leaders I talk to that are just kind of on autopilot. Like I always ask them, like, what's your leadership style? Like, I don't know.
They can't tell you.
I just kind of do the same thing I've been doing for 50 years or 30 years, and they keep giving me promotions. So whatever I'm doing works. And you're like, maybe it not working at the height you reach. Maybe it worked when you were at the front lunch counter at McDonald's, but when you're CEO, it might be a whole different ballgame. I don't know.
But it's interesting. You asked the question about stories. Let's talk about listening for a second. Active listening is really, good.
I'm sorry.
Thanks, Chris. Got it. That's okay.
I had to give the
I gave you an opening. You took the shot. It's active listening is hard to do. And it was a final exam for me at the Harvard Business School in one of my classes where I had to pick somebody that I knew, but not particularly well, and to call him onto campus and ask him if he'd come and talk to me. And I had one of my classmates would sit next to me to grade how well I listened. And I was allowed in 45 minutes to ask one question. That was it. And the rest of it, I'd go, or repeat the phrase that he last said. That's all I could say. I could not say anything about me. I couldn't ask any more questions. So 45 minutes to do this. And he sits down, he says, Jim, what's this all about? I said, Bill, tell me a little bit about yourself. There's my question. I'm done. 45 minutes now. All I can do is go. And during that 45 minutes, I learned that he didn't like his dad. He didn't like the fact he'd been brought up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. He had a drinking problem. He had a drug problem. He didn't like his sister. He couldn't find a job.
You should have been a cop.
And I wanted in the worst way to come across the table and say, grab him by the collar and say, pal, you got to get help. You really got to get help.
But you couldn't say that because you're supposed to be listening.
I couldn't say anything. I could not say a word. And honest to God, Chris, at the end of 45 minutes, I was sweating. You're sweating when you're listening? Yeah, I was sweating. And I said, I got to get a drink of water. I'll be right back. So I leave. He turns to my classmate and he says, he's really a great guy, isn't he? He knew nothing about me. And yet I took 45 minutes to listen to him, tell of his stories, etc. And I think that good leaders start by being good listeners. They listen to their customers, they listen to their employees, they listen to their stockholders. Good leaders in any organizations. I'm not talking just business. I'm talking any nonprofit, any kind of company, any kind of place where you are, where there's another person that you're working with. Because if you listen long enough, they're going to tell you what the opportunities are, what the issues are that you have, what the problems you have. So the first thing you got to do is learn how to be a good listener.
Yeah. As a leader, you've got to compile data, right? You've got to collect it. You've got to listen as to what's going on in the front line, the mid, all the way up to the top. You've got to be aware of the data that's going on in your organization, good, bad, and ugly, because you can't fix it if you don't know what it is.
Exactly.
So many people, they're just like, well, address we're having problems. Just put out a PR statement that's all blue sky and hunky dory, whatever. Just think positive, people. I think Meta put out something recently that was like, we all need to get along better in the company. And it's like, you have 5 yachts and we're getting fired.
That's right.
And it's kind of deafness on the listening.
You just, when they go tone deaf, when a leader goes tone deaf, it's a problem because it'll permeate through the entire organization.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is that you've got to at least respect their thought process. You may not want to make the changes they think should be made. You've got to make the effort to listen to what they have to say.
Yeah. I learned a long time ago, when we started our companies, a little empire that we had, I started 4 or 5 companies and I was just hitting them out of the park. I was nailing everything. We were profitable within 3 to 4 months. Most of our stuff was sweat equity, a couple $1,000 startups, and we were doing all the work. And because we didn't have a lot of debt, we could immediately, once we got profit, we could start churning it and building companies fast. And so we did that. And so I launched 5 companies in a row, home run.
Wow.
And I was starting to think I was some kind of home run king. And my investors, business partners were like, he's smacking him. Whatever this kid wants, give it to him. But then I hit a wall. And we had one of our companies that I started, it burned through $50,000 in the first year, negative. And I'd never gone a whole year with the negative. and of course, eating into cash and from our other companies. And suddenly I wasn't the home run boy anymore. And that's when I had to start realizing that I wasn't the purveyor of all the greatest ideas in the world, and why it's so important to listen to other people and plumb them for ideas and try and create an organization that can make it safe and culture for people to share their ideas and not be worried that they're going to be criticized or called out stupid if they make suggestions. And so that's when I learned that it's really important for that listening that you talked about to do, because sometimes people do have great ideas and answers.
Well, you've got them working for you. You got them working for you 80 hours, 40 hours a week, and they're going to come up with other thoughts. And maybe it's better, maybe it's not something you want to do, but at least you want to listen to what they think.
Yeah. Yeah. And people leave. The number one reason people leave companies is poor leadership, right?
Yes.
And so you spend all this money hiring these people, attracting them, keeping them, doing all the employee stuff. And yet you got to listen to them, because employees now, especially like Gen Z and millennials, they really want to be heard. Yep. They're just not looking to do the work and get the gold watch and wander off. And especially they don't really want to do stuff that doesn't seem to matter. They seem to want to do stuff that maybe matters on a social level or feels like it's their purpose. And so you've got to listen to people. It's really important.
And if you've got the vision for where you want to go with your organization, and you can explain that to everybody else, and they buy into that vision, that whole organization is going to move a lot faster than one that has impediments in the way and the speed bumps and the potholes. No, you really want them all to get in sync. And the best way to do it is good communication, good listening, good talking.
Yeah. Yep. Always got to be, people always ask me, because I was an introvert when I was a kid. I was just a people watcher. I didn't say nothing. And people always like, how did you become such a big mouth that's annoying now? And I said, skill and talent. I had the asshole part down. I just had to get the verbiage part down. But no, when you're a CEO, you've got to sell to everybody. You got to sell to your employees, your board, your investors, your vendors. You've got to have everybody walking the same vision, but you also have to understand what you're selling and if it's going to work, because you can make up whatever process you want as a CEO, but man, if it fails, it's painful.
That's right. It's exactly right. Yeah, you're right.
You just can't call commands out. I think some people think that if they haven't been trained on leadership or they're really bad managers, they just think that whatever special idea you're ordained as the idea guy, being the manager, whatever you think must be perfect. So I've seen that.
And that's where the second thing comes into play, and that's trust.
Yeah,
they've got to trust you. You have to truly be able to get them to trust that you're going to make the right call, even after you listen to what they have to say, even after you may try or not try, but at least you listen. But then they've got to trust you, and you have to trust them, because you can't do that whole job by yourself. You've got to have people that you trust and say, look, I need this done, and let it go, and now move on to the next thing. And they've got to pick up the ball and run with it. So trust becomes right in there as the second thing. It's really critical. Really critical.
Yep.
In any relationship, in any kind of business, in any kind of organization, trust is critical.
Yeah. And without it, they're just not going to trust you. And it's hard to lead an organization where if it's like an army. The general, and you go, we're going to march that way, and then people go, screw that, we're going this way. Then you've got chaos and
no, you're right.
It's true. Yeah,
it's true.
So in your book, is everything pretty much in it examples of people that influence you and made a difference, or is there some packing in there for really discussing and fleshing out these terms of leadership?
There's that as well. There's both pieces of it. I think that if you were to take it and pull it all together, you'd really see that the basic tenets of leadership are all talked about. They're just kind of pulled apart and dissected and looked at it separately. And okay, let's talk about listening. Let's talk about trust. Let's talk about other people giving back and taking responsibility and taking risks and rewards and that kind of thing. So they're all in there. And they're all in there with examples of people that have done it or not done it. I'm not very good at focusing on the negative stuff, so I really will focus on the positive things that people have done.
Yeah. And creating an organization that has a healthy culture is really important. I imagine you talk about culture and how to try and lay a good foundation. You've taken over as a CEO for different divisions with Porsche and things like that. Sometimes when you walk in those jobs, sometimes you have a mess you have to clean up. You sometimes have morale problems. I don't know if that was your case, but sometimes you have to step in and you have to try and identify maybe why the last guy didn't work out. And you're taking over the new guy.
You're absolutely right. And invariably, you don't take on an organization that's at its peak. Invariably, what happens is the guy left for some reason, unless he retired after 30 years of wonderful years and everything was good. But that rarely happens. What typically happens is you're called in to put out some fires or to take something to the next step. And there's still things that have to be fixed. And you have to fix them, but you've got to do it in a way that the people trust you, that you're building a culture, It's your kind of culture. You've got to have your kind of people working for you. In many cases, the people that are in there aren't exactly your type. You're going to have to figure that out because you have your own strengths.
Mhm.
They have their strengths. You need to tie those together. You don't want to put everybody like you in these organizations. You want to have people that are very different, that are going to come up with different ideas. So yes, you need to build your own culture regardless of what you've taken over. You just have to do that.
Yeah. And yeah, you're right. People can't be like you. I don't want people to think like me. I need people to think different. One of the famous stories that I talked about ad nauseum is the last CEO that I worked for. He had this board, and there was always this negative Nancy on the board. Whatever he was the opposite of whatever everyone wanted. If everyone said no, he said yes. If everyone said yes, he'd say no. And he always had this. It seemed like a horrible attitude, and he was always negative about stuff. And finally, I went to my CEO buddy, and I go, "Man, I'm tired of negative Nancy down there at the end of the table. Why is he in the room? Everybody wants to just choke him out." Like, because we all know what his argument's going to be every freaking time. It's going to be the opposite of whatever. And he goes, "Chris, let me tell you something. Last thing you want as a CEO is to be, or manager, or any sort of leader, is people around you that are yes men.
That's right.
Yes women." That's right. And he said to me, that guy, yeah, he's a little bit annoying. And sometimes I lose patience with him. But I got to tell you, when he's right and everyone's wrong, that's millions of dollars. And my job as CEO is to listen to all these voices and then determine who's right and who's wrong and make my choice. And when that guy's right, he is dead on.
Yep.
And that's true. And you got to keep those people around. And like I say, everyone's got different walks of life. They've got different experiences. They got different stories. And so their perspective, that's why I love my show. We can have everybody on here talking about leadership. And you think it would be the same discussion, but there's so many different perspectives and angles and analyzation and different ways of looking at things that make you go, aha, I never thought of that way. And so you've got to have those people in your life. And if you just have a bunch of bots, NPCs that look like you and talk like you and think like you from the same experience, you're not going to get a diversity of ideas.
And it's not going to work. You've got to get the best organizations are the ones that bring creativity into the fore. And you're going to have companies where people are going to sit in these meetings and argue like hell for hours about what's going on. And then they get up and they go, "Where do you want to have dinner tonight?" And they go off but they respect one another's thought process. It happens a lot. It happens in family businesses. It happens in corporations. It happens in nonprofits where people just don't agree. But let's figure out, and maybe we go to the middle, or maybe we go to your side, or maybe we go to my side. But the bottom line is, at the end of the day, let's agree on where we're going. But let's figure out how do we get there and plot that line together.
Yep. And that listening is important too, because sometimes you've been a CEO, you almost have to be a psychologist sometimes.
Yep.
Because when their head gets screwed on wrong, and it could be something at home, it could be something in the office, it just could be, I don't know, they're not getting enough sleep or they haven't eaten that day.
No, you're right. You're right. All of the above.
You've got to be able to fix their head game and put them back in the game. That's what a coach does. He pulls you off the field. And he says, "Hey man, go take a rest for a second. Let's have a chat and let's get your head screwed on straight. You're somehow lost." And you get them screwed on straight and send them out back to war. And that's really important. I used to call it touching the hearts and mind of my employees, and the HR said I can't call it any of that anymore. But I would go around and check in with people. "Hey, Bob, how's it going, man? How's the family life? How's life treating you? Is everything okay? What do you need? Is there anything we can do to serve you and help you?" And there's a lot of that with servant leadership now that more people talk about. I don't know if you ascribe to that sort of mentality, or what's your thoughts on stuff like that?
I think, first of all, back up just one point that you made that's really interesting, and that is, how's your family life? What's going on outside? You don't want to get too much into that.
Yeah, that's true.
You really don't want to get too much into that, because all of a sudden the guy's going to use you as a shoulder to cry on. You don't need to know about the fact that he's got a kid who's flunking out of college, or he's got a wife who's not exactly loyal to him, or he's not very good loyal to her. Or you don't want to hear about that stuff. But on the other hand, that's what's causing the problem. Yeah. And you're absolutely right about that. Yeah. But now back to your question about servant leadership, very, very important. Yeah. It's really important, because you are the servant to your customers I always looked at when I was a dean that the pyramid that I was operating under, I was not at the top of the pyramid. That pyramid was inverted and I was at the bottom.
Oh.
And I was literally like Atlas holding up the world. That was my job, was to make sure that they did their job the best they possibly could. Mm-hmm. And if it was a professor in the classroom, if it was a research professor who was working on some kind of research, my job was to support them with finances, with getting them to conferences where they can present their ideas, making sure they had what they needed in the classroom. That was my job, was to be the servant to them. Mm-hmm. And that is leadership too. And mm-hmm. I said to many of these professors, I said, look, my job is to make sure you do the right thing. And if you present a paper that's got a brilliant idea, that's going to change a lot of things in the business world or in any other world. So it's important that you are there to support what they're trying to do once you're all in agreement that they're going the right direction.
Yeah.
Really critical.
So yeah, really critical. It's wild, some of the things that you have to take and maintain. Like, I never thought I would have to be a psychiatrist. And I've had to, especially with salespeople.
Yep.
Man, if they get something stuck in their craw, you got to do some brain surgery. They're getting a divorce. They're going through that, and the numbers are starting to fall because they're off their game. And just sometimes you got to deal with all this stuff. But listening's really important in creating a culture where people listen. Peter Senge was a big influence on mine in my study to become a CEO someday. We talked about how I didn't go to college, but I did give myself what I would call my custom-made MBA through Harvard Business Review.
You want me to sign your diploma? I'm happy to do it if you want me to do that.
Yeah, sure. I'll have to make one. ChatGPT, make me. He worked at Harvard. Are you still at Harvard now? Or
I went to Harvard, sure, but I've also signed 24,000 USC diplomas. So I can sneak yours in there somewhere. Don't worry about it.
And so Peter Senge, which is the fifth discipline, had a real impact on me on culture and how to create a learning organization. And part of that comes down to listening. And you want people who can learn. And so we had different rules. One of my rules was and I took it from somewhere. I don't know. I can't give credit to it. But one of the rules was, it might have been Tom Peters. The only dumb question is the unasked question.
That's right.
Yeah. Because that guy who fell asleep through training and breaks a $30,000 machine, you want him to ask questions to go, hey, I didn't really get some things and I'm not clear.
Yep.
Can I get some help here? And if he doesn't feel like, if he feels like he's going to get shamed or criticized for offering up ideas, he's going to go break a $30,000 machine. And the other thing is we made it so that the only dumb question is the unasked question. We made it, please ask us, talk to us. And then the other thing I would do to people was, if they didn't understand how something worked, a process, how does this machine work? How does this computer work for what I'm trying to do for it? And we explained to them not only how to work it, but the reasoning we came up with in experimentation that we do things that way. And the reason I would do that was I explained to them, I'm explaining this to you because if you have ideas that we haven't seen, that we have scotomas or blind spots on how and why we built this way, please let us know. And so that would give them the opportunity to see the build of it. And it wasn't just those things where you just tell people, we've been doing this way, so you just do it that way and just shut up and just do it that way. We wanted them to innovate. So those are some of the culture things that we did.
So the problem that people have today, and I worry about it a little bit, is they're afraid to speak up. They're afraid to ask ask questions because of retribution.
Yeah, you look stupid or somebody call you names.
Yeah. They're afraid they're going to be looked at as stupid. They're afraid that somebody's going to say, I'm going to promote this guy over you because he's just a smarter guy. Some cases, the guy's just a wise ass. And he doesn't want it, and he's going to make mistakes. And that's the problem. And like you say, ask the questions so you know how to work that machine the right way.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to take us to make us more efficient. People just have to, don't be shy, ask the question. And there's sometimes when the company's going the wrong direction or the organization's going in the wrong direction, and you say, why are we doing this? And if you get an answer you don't like, that might be time for you to leave the organization. You may get to that point where you got to be true to your own North Star and say, this doesn't feel right to me. And that happens as well, or should happen, if you're asking the right questions.
Yeah, most definitely. What are some other things in your book that we should tease out to people to let them know some of the juice that's in it?
Just a couple of, there's one really great story about a young man that was a student of mine when I was teaching. He was born in Iran with an umbilical cord wrapped around his neck.
Oh, wow.
And the doctors thought at childbirth he died. So they set him aside because they didn't think he was breathing. Set him aside to take care of his mom, which they did. All of a sudden he started crying.
Wow.
I go, whoa, we got a problem here. He's awake. He's alive. And
pillow over his face. No, I'm just doing jokes, folks. Don't write me.
Because of that, he suffered from cerebral palsy for his whole life.
Oh no! Wow.
He can't really speak very well. He's confined to a wheelchair. He wound up in my class. He got to college. He got to USC.
Wow,
He's a very, very smart guy.
Yeah.
And he would ask questions in class. 30% of the grade was class participation. His hand was in the air all the time. I couldn't really even understand him. The students understood him way better, and he almost needed a translator to help me out. It took me a while till I knew. And the kids would say to me after class, "How does he know so much? He's never been in an office. He's never been in a warehouse." I said, "He just thinks and reads and studies." And he would come to me and say, "What am I going to do when I graduate from college? I can't get a job. I'm confined to a wheelchair." And I said, "Let's look at, there are programs within the state that might be able to help you, all kinds of things. But I think what you ought to do is write a book and go out and do a little speaking." And he's like, "You speak?" And I go, "Yes, I know, that's true. But you know what? You can get a translator to stand alongside you and help you out."
Oh.
And so he wrote a book. And the book is called Love Your Life and It'll Love You Back. And there's a reason for that title, which is pretty fascinating. He went out and he spoke. He'd speak at high schools and Kiwanuses and Rotaries and that kind of thing. And his book came out and talking his life story. It was a true autobiography. But I had a screenwriter from Hollywood help him, who really understood cerebral palsy and understood someone that spoke or could barely speak like that. He just understood it. And they wrote the book together. And one day, the writer calls me and he says, "Have you talked to him today?" And I said, "No." He says, "I'm going to get him on the phone right now." I said, Whoa. Hold it. I'm in the middle of a meeting. I got 6 people in the meeting sitting here in my office." He says, "I don't care. I'm getting him on the phone right now. You got to talk to him." I'm going, "Okay." So he gets on the phone. And I said, "What's going on?" He said, I said, "What?" I said, "It sounded to me like you just said your mother won the lottery." He said, "Yeah. $63 million.
Wow. That's pretty good.
Said, "You know
Thanks,
what?
Mom.
You loved your life and you loved your life and it loved you back." And that's exactly what happened. And this is a young man who every step of the way has been so difficult for him in life.
Yeah.
And yet he kept working and kept plotting and kept plugging, and all of a sudden life paid him back. And just really a great story that tells you, don't give up. Don't give up on your journey. Keep working.
Yeah.
Keep going the way you want to go. It's just, it's something that so many people give up. I had an 81-year-old guy send me a letter, say, "I want to get my diploma from USC." I had to leave USC to go into the Army. And he said, and then when I came back, I had the family and I had to support my family and go to work. What I didn't know, because he didn't tell me he was 81 years old, is he left the school to go to World War II. And he wound up, he lived in Maine. And he said, "It really bothers me I don't have my diploma." And we figured out a way to make him finish school, get the credits that he needed to get the degree at 81 years old. I said, "You just have to do me one favor. You got to show up for graduation." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "You need to be here because these kids need to see what it's like when somebody finishes. Don't start it and stop it." I said, you want to finish what you started way back then." He walked across that stage to get his diploma, and there were 5,000 people. It was a standing ovation, just screaming and yelling and the whole thing. I said, this is probably the oldest person ever to get his diploma at USC in the business school. And they just went crazy. The kids went crazy. And it's just a matter of start something, but then finish it.
Yeah.
And don't just quit in the middle of it. And I think that's a lesson that we all learn it, but sometimes we don't learn it till we're a lot older, and wisdom helps a little bit there.
Yeah.
It was great. It was just, it was rewarding to me to watch it and just to see that happen.
Yeah. That's amazing. But sometimes we start a lot of things. I have really bad ADHD. It's really bad. And it had gone away when I hit my 50s, and it was really nice. And so did my sex drive, because and I'm just like, okay, this is what happens when you get older as a man. You just kind of, you fade a little bit, but this is really nice. I'm not every 5 seconds going, chicks, chicks, chicks. I'm single. I was like, this is really nice. And then I found out I'd been working out for 3 years, and I'm like, why can't I put muscle on? I just hit a wall. And turns out my testosterone was too low. And so I got it checked, and then we started getting it. I didn't have enough. I had good testosterone. I just didn't have free testosterone to build muscle with.
Yep.
And you got to have the extra little juice left over there at the end of the day. And I'd been overweight most of my life. So my estrogen body was fat as hell, was eating all the testosterone. I got on testosterone, but the sex drive came back, and so did, like a mofo, the ADHD. And it is.
Damn. Wow.
And every time I increase dose, because we're trying to get me up to a certain level that isn't quite roids, but it's kind of border there.
Cool. Yeah.
It just gets worse. It's like riding a freaking, it's just like riding a stallion. It's just, and you never know where it's going. You're just like, sometimes I just find myself 5 tasks deep. And you're right. I need to finish. I'm like, what was the first task I started? I got to finish that one.
But it's hard. It's hard. And it's a lot easier to walk away from something. And it's just too easy to walk away from something. And if it's something that's going to be worthwhile, and you got to finish it. And sometimes you never know that. You don't know until many years later that, damn, I should have finished that. What was wrong with me? Why didn't I do that? There's a story in the book about a CEO of a Fortune 100 company. He calls me up and he said, I've always said that I went to USC, but I could never say I graduated from USC because I haven't.
Oh, wow.
Can you help me? He says, I have a hole in my heart and I really need to close it. He says, how do I get my diploma? I said, you need 3 classes. You live in Chicago. We can figure out schools to go to where you can go right there and get the credits transferred. And he said, can we please do that? And I said, yeah. And we did it. And I said, you want to come to graduation? Your son's going to graduate this year. Why don't you come and walk across the stage? He says, no. He says that I'm doing this for me. And he says, I don't need to celebrate it. I just need to know I did it. Wow. And he said, I'm going to celebrate him because it's his graduation. And I'm just going to do it myself. And he says, I finished it, and I just feel so good about myself.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. You see a lot of people that do that. They don't finish high school, and they didn't finish their GED, and they've got to go. They want to go do it, and sometimes it helps you in your career. It's just one of those things that always haunts us. I think sometimes we have a lot of that. There's probably things I have that. No, there is. There's like a running list of to do things.
Yeah, we all have something that we just could have done better. You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
We could have done better, and we stopped it. We didn't, for whatever reason, we didn't. I go back to my own life with taking piano lessons. My mother said, you're gonna rue the day you can't sit down at a party and play the piano. I said, yeah, probably, but I'm gonna quit anyway. But I probably should have stuck with it because I at least could play, but I didn't. And I think there's certain things you just have to finish. You got to finish.
Yeah. You do finish. I used to do a lot of photography back in the day. And I've been back for 1 year doing photography, but then I took a 9-year break. And before that, probably about 5 or 10 years doing photography. And I never was a good photographer. I didn't feel like I had much skill or talent. I didn't. And I didn't really want to learn the science of it. I just stay in automatic mode most of the time. And I hated the complexity of the science of it. And I'm just like, whatever, I'm just going to I like taking pictures. And there's a bit of meditation and being present in the moment because you're looking to capture the moment.
Yep.
And you've got a split second to get it if you can grab it. Someone does something, 2 people holding hands walking down the street are hard to find these days.
Yep.
And different things. And I wasn't very good at it. And I quit it because the editing was the nightmare. I loved the photography part, but I hated the editing. I was like, this is the nightmare. And then after 9 years, I was looking at some old photos that I had that really, they're so old. The resolution on was low and stuff. And there were my dogs. And I'm like, God, I wish I could update these and bring them into the new age and they would look as good as they did when my computer was 360 pixels. And so then I found some AI software that was kicking around that the photographers are using. And I'm like, huh. It was cheap and it was trial. And so I was like, yeah, I'll try using this AI stuff. And holy crap, it was easy. It made my editing, cut it down to nothing. Sometimes it gave me better coloring combinations than I would originally envisioned for the photo. And I'm like, that works. What was I thinking?
Wow.
And so I did feel like I'd unfinished something. And I had probably 500,000 photos that I'd never edited from 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So I've been back for a year now. And for some reason, taking that break, I got better. Maybe I just matured as a person because I'm able to sit down and go, let's learn the science of it.
Yep.
But yeah, it kind of haunted me for 9 years. I really felt bad about letting that go. And I'm so glad I went back to it. So yeah,
it's a good story, Chris. That's really, really a good story. It's not something your livelihood depended on it. It's head dependent on it.
Oh yeah,
and you made it happen. That's really cool.
And it gives me a lot of peace to go out. I take Saturday as photography day, so I'm either in studio with some models or I go out and wander canyons and I don't really have an agenda. I just go wander. But the funny thing is, when I came back from the first portrait studio shots that I did and released, people were like, you're doing like magazine work. You're doing like high-end are you shooting for Vogue? No, what is going on? And I work closely with Canon for those 10 years. Now I have Sony, but my Canon executives were like, what did you do for 9 years? You didn't pick up a camera for 9 years? Yeah. And there's somebody else that showed up. Maybe sometimes there's a maturity thing where we put stuff off and we're waiting to get till we can grow a little bit more to appreciate what that was. I don't know.
It really is what I call in the book wisdom. It's wisdom. Now all of a sudden maturity becomes wisdom, and they can joke a little bit about the gray hairs and the white hairs, but sometimes those really are benefit. And it really does. You learn from the experiences you've had earlier in your life, and that goes into the storage tank, and at some point in time you need to pull it out of the storage tank because you got to share that experience with somebody, or you've got to share the wisdom, and which is kind of what I was trying to do in the book. But that's essentially what you were doing with photography. You've got wisdom on how to do a better photo. You get it. You understand the composition.
Yeah. And I manage stuff better. I didn't want to learn stuff back then. And now I'm more about what's the old Stoic line? Ryan Reynolds' great book. Ryan Holiday's great book. The obstacle is the way.
Yep.
And basically what Stoicism teach you is if you've got something that's hard to do, like for me, learning the science of, I'm like, I don't want to do all this work. Oh my God. But now it's fun. When I go out on Saturdays, like last Saturday, there was a certain style of photography I was going to try and make work. I'd seen other people doing it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to lock the camera in a certain way, and we're going to use darkness and light, and everything's not going to be bright. We're going to make this black photography that people pass through light. And so it was really hard, but so now I force myself to do that. And I think sometimes that comes with age, but it did haunt me for a lot of years that I failed at that. And I was like, I want another crack at it. And thank God for AI, because it just makes my editing. I mean, my editing's still a pain in the ass, but I think I love it now more so since I'd given it up and missed it for 9 years.
You bring up a point that we haven't talked about. Let's talk about it for just a second. That's AI. There's a lot of people that are afraid of AI. They're going to lose their jobs because of AI. They're nervous because of this. And I think, quite honestly, that we have to, number one, we've got to recognize that it's a tool. It's not going away. You got to use it to your advantage, and it's going to help you. It's going to help you be more efficient. It's going to help you be more thorough. And so many people are afraid of it. And yes, there's a negative to it. I got it. I understand there's an issue that AI can take over some things, and that's a problem. But for the most part, in an environment where you have the opportunity to use it, take advantage of what it offers you, it can really be a help to you. Just like you just said right then. Look what it's done to help you with the photography in so many ways. And we said the same thing about the internet. Oh, it's going to take jobs away. We said the same thing about computers. Oh, yeah, we're not going to ever use paper again. Yeah, really? Is that true? And I think that it's AI is something it's here to stay. So let's embrace it and figure out how we can use it to our advantage in the jobs that we do.
Yeah.
Or go learn another trade where you're going to be able to use AI. But and the job of the government or somebody is put the fence around it. That's their job to make sure it doesn't get out of control. And I get it can get out of control. So I'm not dismissing that. But I think AI is something that we just have to take advantage of it. That's all.
Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes, I don't know, I think really I just grew as a person, and I spent the last 9 years, I've been back a year, so I guess 10 years, but I spent those 9 years in the wilderness thinking about shots, looking at the world like I do as a photographer. and thinking, God, I wish I had a camera with me right now. Oh yeah, I hate editing. But I think I matured. I hope I did. People listening right now, he's not mature.
I think you did. I guarantee you did.
So as we go out, is there any offerings on your website? Speaking, coaching, consulting, events, anything?
I do a lot of that stuff, but I kind of leave it alone to conversations to have one-on-one with people. So I don't really put it out as offerings, but anytime somebody wants to contact me and talk about it, I'm happy to talk about it because I'm open to do. One of the things that I learned and I've practiced a lot is start with yes. So when somebody calls me and says, can you help me on this? I'm going to start with yes. We'll take it from there. I may get to know, but I'm going to start with yes. So the opportunity is contact through the website, and let's see where we go from there.
Let's make it work, folks.
Yep.
Reach out to them, call on for speaker stuff and all that. So as we go out, give people a final pitch out to pick up your book and where they can find you on the interwebs to know more.
Journey of Insights on Amazon. Looking forward to it. We'll have it at independent bookstores. And thank you very much for your time, Chris. It's really been absolutely terrific.
And thank you for your time. It's been terrific to have you. We could probably talk for 10 hours.
Yeah, we could. You're right.
And you've done an illustrious career, and leadership's so important. So hopefully most people will pick up your book, and everyone will pick up your book, damn it. Even a parent is a leader.
Yeah. Everyone
can be a leader. I have had people say to me, I'm not a leader, Chris. I'm in middle management. I have a boss, and I don't have a title as a leader. And I'm like, no, parents are leaders. And if parents aren't leaders, then teenagers are going to lead. So you better make sure
Let's not have that happen.
Yeah, we can't be having that sort of thing. But they think they're right all the time. So there's that. But leadership is so important, and it delves down to just so many interactive daily things that we do. A person someone in an emergency situation suddenly becomes leader. They jump up and take command of something on the bus or something that's going on. There's a million places where people can stand up and take and lead in the moment. And
take charge.
Yeah. And being a leader or learning to be a leader, I knew I needed to learn to be a leader way before I was going to be a CEO. And I spent a lot of time preparing for that, reading as much as I could, learning as much as I could, because I didn't want to suck it when I got there.
That's right.
I built for it. I tried to. I wasn't perfect. It still didn't make me perfect because I'm a human being, evidently. Damn it. But thanks, Jim, for coming on the show. We really appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. And thanks, Ron, for tuning in. Order Jim's book at anywhere on the internet there, especially fine books are sold, Amazon, and there'll be a link on the Chris Voss Show. It is entitled A Journey of Insights, Lessons in Leadership and Legacy by James G. Ellis. Thanks, Artists, for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, YouTube.com/Chris Voss, all those crazy places on the internet. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next.
You've been listening to the most amazing, intelligent podcast ever made to improve your brain and your life. Warning, consuming too much of the Chris Voss Show podcast can lead to people thinking you're smarter, younger, and irresistible sexy. Consume in regularly moderated amounts. Consult a doctor for any resulting brain bleed.